Bryce? No, sir. Okay. Good. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the first Hartland Selectboard meeting in February 3rd. First order of business are the minutes from January 21st. I would entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 21st.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Clyde. Any discussion? Gotta find them here. I'd like to, on new business item 4, the second sentence, which reads a public meeting with the select board and the planning commission. I'd like to insert a public meeting with ITW, the select board and the planning commission.
Yep.
We'll capture that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Next would be the orders through today, February 3rd. Again, I need a motion to accept them.
I'll move that we accept the orders through February 3rd.
Thank you, this is
Second.
Jim seconded. Thank you. Any discussion?
We'll pick both sides, just to notice that. Anyway, what's the Upper Valley Walking Trails membership?
That's the Conservation Commission. It's the annual group that they're a part of. Upper Valley Trails Alliance.
John, I noticed that we have a payment to Kevin O'Toole, who's our attorney for the tax sale. How many, is this to start the process?
That is the 3 letters. Those are the 3 properties that sold last year at tax sale.
Oh, okay. So it's not,
That's
not this year.
So they sold last year and they finalized now. So
They finalized, the letters went out somewhat recently, but in this fiscal year, the letters from Kevin went out. Yeah. 3 letters, $50 pop.
Okay. Any other questions on the orders? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, adjustments to the agenda, we need to add an executive session. We can take care about the actual statute when we get there. Okay.
So I make a motion that we change the agenda to add an executive session to discuss personnel issues and legal issues.
I'll second the motion, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? Anything online?
There are no comments online.
Okay, I would like to make one quick one. I want to congratulate John on nearing a 1-year completion of his job, and thank you.
There's still 3 days, Phil, so don't.
I clearly lost in the pool.
I don't know what to say to this.
He's tougher than we thought.
Yeah.
But are you kidding? It was like it was no gray when I started.
Okay, before we go down that rabbit hole, I think I'll move on.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay. Moving on to old business. We have the first item is the town plan adoption process. It's been confusing because which town plan are we talking about? So John, I'll let you step through it.
So we are readopting the 2017 town plan to make sure that we have a town plan in place while the 2025 now town plan is being reviewed by Two Rivers and gives the select board and the planning commission time to make any changes. So there was inadvertently, through a misunderstanding between myself and Two Rivers, a public meeting notice that went out in the Valley News about a meeting on the 25th. That is not happening. We've put a correction on the website, so there's a little, that adds to the confusion. The select board holds 2 public hearings. The first one is going to be Monday, March 3rd, so again, the night before town meeting, 5 p.m. I know we don't typically meet that day. This will be short, straightforward. I don't believe we don't need to do other business unless there is a desire to do so.
And we'll do it upstairs.
We'll do it upstairs. It's again, 5 p.m. Before what would be the regularly scheduled select board meeting. Solicit feedback.
So I mean, yeah, that's fine. Logistically, this will be set up for voting. The upstairs will be set up for town meeting.
Logistically, we could hold it at the library. We could hold it somewhere else if we need to.
If we could do it at the front of the room, I'm not concerned about it as long as everybody understands it.
Yep. Yeah. So that will go in the Valley News and the Standard. Get notice for then. The second meeting will be on Monday, August 7th at 5 p.m. So again,
Monday,
April 7th. I was wondering why you looked so confused when I said that, Clyde.
At 5?
At 5.
So boy, you're stretching.
That doesn't get us a town plan before May 15th.
But let's hope August is the new one coming down.
Yes.
April 2nd and
April 7th.
7th.
Yeah, so that'll be the regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay. John, are there any other procedural things that we need to do as a select board in order to re-adopt the plan?
No.
Okay.
I think the expectation we have to set for the meetings is that we're re-adopting as is. It's not, we're not soliciting feedback to make changes. That happens on the current.
Correct.
The new town plan, which there are hearings already.
Which they are
scheduled.
So that process continues. However, to be clear, those 2 meetings are the select board public hearings for the 2017 town plan readoption.
Readoption as is.
After that April meeting, you can adopt it at what would be the regularly scheduled select board meeting that evening.
Okay. So both are at 5 p.m.
Correct. So they're not taking up space during a select board meeting.
Okay.
Sticking with the old plan, the 2017 plan, I was a little confused looking at the agenda for the upcoming planning commission. Are they in sync with this process?
I've had conversations with multiple of the planning commission members about this, and as far as I'm aware, we are in sync about readopting the 2017 town plan while they continue to work on the adoption of the 2025 town plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And do we have any dates that we should be aware of for the 2025?
At this point, go ahead.
Yes, I think there's a published date in February.
So that's I think that was that's the 25th meeting that was incorrectly published. Again, a miscommunication between Two Rivers and myself. Because we're taking this kind of dual track, there was a lot of dates being thrown about. It was a little confusing.
Okay, so that's not on my calendar. So there's not an official hearing for the planning commission on the new town plan.
I have not seen a public notice come out.
Because I thought that they had picked a date. And I thought it was the last week of February.
I think this is part of the confusion.
So they're meeting Wednesday.
They're meeting, yes, Wednesday.
But if it's truly, it would already be notified.
They would have to have had that gone in the paper already.
And I think they were working with Two Rivers on the notification. Whether it happened, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I saw it in the paper.
Right. I think you saw a notification in the paper that was sent out inadvertently, or there was a mistake that happened.
Okay, so that was
That's
not theirs.
That's not theirs. That was a miscommunication between myself and Two Rivers.
Okay,
So that, we have a notice on our website that says that meeting is not taking place. We're not starting that process yet.
okay.
It's confusing.
Well, as we expected.
Right, exactly. Yes.
So can I ask, this is probably not the appropriate time for this, but can I ask for the meeting dates now, from now until April 7th? The next times, the times that we are meeting.
Of the
here,
select board
and
meeting?
What time they are.
Yes, you can ask for those things.
Okay.
So we'll be meeting again on February 18th, which is a Tuesday, because Monday is the holiday. That is a regularly scheduled select board meeting
5:30.
at 5:30.
Okay.
And you caught the dates that we just put out for the town plan, correct?
That's March 3rd.
Yep.
March 4th is town meeting day.
March 4th is town meeting day.
March 3rd is 5 p.m.
March 3rd is 5 p.m.
And town meeting day is all day, what,
It's,
from when to when?
it's roughly
9?
Yeah, so put, yes, 8:30, arrive early.
Okay.
And then, guess at 1 o'clock at the worst case.
Right. Right, sometime after lunch.
And then April 7th. Well, don't forget, there's probably another,
March 17th.
March 17th.
March 17th will be a regularly scheduled meeting.
And the pre-town meeting, which we'll talk to.
Correct, we'll come,
We'll come to that.
we'll come to that one, yeah.
Okay.
Does that fill up your calendar?
Yeah, 18th of February, March 3rd, March 4th, March 17th,
Yep.
and April 7th.
And one to be determined.
TBA, here you go.
Right, and I don't want to move down the agenda unless we're ready.
I want to just restate that the agreement between the planning commission and the select board is we are the stewards of getting the old plan readopted, which are the dates that we were just talking about. And the planning commission is working with Two Rivers Regional Planning Commission to begin the process for their public hearings before that new plan comes to the select board, and then we'll be having public hearings. But there's two tracks going on there.
There's two tracks happening,
And,
right? Hopefully by doing the select board hearings in February and March and April, that
We're done.
we're done,
And then the next one will-
and then the next one starts, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm continuing when I have difficulty sleeping of reading the new town plan. So in that part, still waiting for that summary, executive summary.
The executive summary, right, yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other questions about the town plan adoption process at this point? Okay, moving on to item 2, the pre-town meeting logistics.
Correct. So there had been discussion, we are holding what in essence is a pre-town meeting next Monday.
Hang on, I gotta open the calendar again.
Trace.
Yeah, next Monday?
Next Monday, the 10th.
February 10th.
What has not been decided is whether or not that would be a warned select board meeting. So so the entire board or some mix of you can be in attendance. If it is not a warned meeting, we would need to do,
So the 10th at what time?
we can do it at 5:30, so to give people the time to get here after work.
I mean, I think for safety's sake, you ought to warn it.
Okay.
Because if we start to have deliberations about some topic, then it's at least warned. Otherwise, we'll get to stay silent.
Well, I agree with you, Jim, that we should warn it and we should be there since we have ownership and the items that are talked will be better articles that we'll be talking about. The other variation that I think John was thinking, just have two of us there. But I really think we should.
Well, who's driving the discussion? You're driving
I'm driving the discussion, much
So-
like at regular town meeting.
Yeah, so I think that's fine. We should take a backseat and, only speak when spoken to.
Jackets and ties not required for pre-town meeting,
But
town meeting.
you've got a lot of good things to talk about. Right?
Correct.
Whether it's grants or whether it's reduction in staffing and doing a better job with less people, or, there's a lot of wins.
Yeah.
So are you gonna try to go through those wins?
So I'm going to try to go through some of those wins. It'll be a shortened presentation that we would see the following month at town meeting.
Okay.
Walking through the articles, talking about them, and also opening, it would be great at the end of the discussion to open it up so we can talk with the folks in attendance about the Quechee Road. So just kind of, we're getting that conversation going.
Yeah.
So to give us time to build for that.
That sounds like a good plan. I don't think I'm gonna need to say anything at the meeting. Because I don't think I'm not gonna need to talk about you.
Okay.
Can we bring beer?
Whatever.
A flask.
Flask.
Yeah, so that's our next meeting, the 10th. And
That
that's
is the 10th. That'll be it.
5 o'clock.
5:30.
5:30. Today.
You're gonna need a bigger piece of paper.
Yeah, I can go into that. We're on
Would you like me to send a summary email with all these dates for everybody?
Yeah, sure, that'd be great.
Well, put it this way, every Monday for a while, we're going to be here.
And except that if I show up on Monday and the meeting's on Tuesday, I won't be happy about
Oh,
that.
the Tuesday, you're right, the
That's right.
Tuesday, got me on that one. Okay,
So just finish the schedule. Next Tuesday, I'm gonna dial in.
Next Monday, the 10th.
No, no, you're right. Tuesday, the 18th.
The
I'll
18th.
Dial in.
Correct, you will be out of town. Yes. Yep. So that is a meeting with the planning commission and the select board. The anticipation is that aside from opening the meeting, because it's a regularly scheduled meeting, approving the orders, the only other agenda item will be the public discussion with residents and the proposed tower developers.
I think we can get the finance guy to issue checks between now and then.
Well, he's a tricky one to pin down on doing things, but maybe. Yes. We are having that, Matt Dunn has agreed to moderate the meeting on the 18th.
Oh, good.
So it will be a more formal meeting than we typically have, but, so, just to make sure we're all moving on, staying on track, so.
And again, just trying to make sure that we're on the same page with the planning commission. Their agenda item didn't talk about that in that way. but-
Correct. Well, I'm hopeful that I can attend maybe remotely on Wednesday so we can be a part of that conversation.
Okay, any other questions of the February 10th pre-town meeting? The school board pre-town meeting is on
The last Monday in February, I believe it's the 24th.
okay, so we're not in conflict anything.
We are not in conflict there, nor it would be great if folks would attend the school budget presentation. However, there is no requirement that you do so.
And what time is that?
That one, I believe, is that, I don't have that one on my calendar yet. I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, moving on to the Three Corners intersection budget.
Correct.
For the last few meetings, we've been staring at Comcast very late bills, and we asked John for a final accounting of the project. And we have in our packet, we have a lot of detail as well as some summary what was paid to the various vendors and where we stand bond-wise versus what we owe.
Correct. So I apologize for the very small print on that spreadsheet. But in essence, what you're looking at, the list on the left is a list of all the invoices we have received from all of the contractors. So Knott's, VHB, GPI, Two Rivers, the utilities. You can see that summary on the right-hand side under the total invoiced amount. The this is where it gets a little confusing. In essence, for the whole project, we are $9,200 over budget. However, at some point previously, there was both the paving grant and the sidewalk grant were 80% money, meaning we had to contribute 20% when we, of town funds when we got those. That was the understanding when we entered into that agreement with V-Trans. That match money got spent on the project. So we, in essence, owe the 20% of those two grants, which is about $100,000 because it was, it's about $100,000. And then when you add in the $9,200 that we are actually over budget, we're about $109,000.
So,
I want to say over budget, but it's not quite over budget.
yeah, so when you think about the VHB estimate that they gave us originally, you know, it was a $1,062,000 bond, right? When they had the grant money. But nobody, when they did that estimate, figured out that we need to use the grant money, the bond money to cover our share of the grants.
So that 1%.
Put into that budget is just extra money that's gonna come from someplace.
Right.
So that's why we're over by the town match, right? Which is not a big deal because there was also a $225,000 contingency in that original budget, which we didn't spend. We spent what John said, roughly $9,000 of that contingency.
Right.
On actual project costs.
Right. We did a very good job of staying on budget for the project.
Yeah. So, you know, net, we thought we were gonna spend a lot more than we did.
Correct.
So another good story to tell. We really
Yeah.
came in under budget.
Right, under budget, because we had the contingency built
by about
in.
$110,000, and we don't have to take $400,000 out of the highway fund.
Correct. Correct. We do have to take about $100,000. However,
From the surplus side.
so that is the question for the board. My recommendation is going to be to use the surplus money from FY23 and FY24. FY23, we have a surplus of just shy of $52,000. The surplus from last year was significantly more, about $230,000. That was the year we sold the Coley properties. We had income from that. We did fairly well with some investments that we had in terms of interest on those. So if we use the whole FY23 surplus, and then a portion of the FY24 surplus, we have plenty of money to cover in essence, the overage from the Three Corners project.
Right.
And still have money, and still have $140,000 in surplus money to use for potentially the Quechee Road, which has been discussed.
Where's the money for the lights coming from?
The money from the lights is set aside from town meeting from last year.
Yeah.
Recall, we set aside, the voters approved $100,000 at town meeting last year for the pedestrian lights at the Three Corners. So that money is separate.
Yeah, so I think we're in really good shape.
Really good shape, except for Quechee Road.
Yes.
Yes. Are there other questions on the Three Corners intersection project?
No, I mean, I think it's just another good story to tell. Yeah, kind of a recap of how that went.
And I just noticed this morning when I was going through this that, you know, our reaction to Comcast being late and, you know, this money, the VTEL and GMP and First Light bills were so much less. And GMP was just 14,000 or 10,000. Anyway, I expected GMP to be a lot more than Comcast. So I'm glad we questioned the Comcast.
Yeah.
It was a political statement on my part, I guess. I'm not real pleased with that. Okay.
So it's really, so again, Three Corners, we came in very good shape. We had the money to cover the 20% match.
Out of the surplus.
Right, out of the surplus money, without touching the highway fund balance.
I think it's a good point.
And there's no action, so there's no action required then.
No, I just say thank you to Martin too for
It's
his.
already approved
Right.
budget, operational budgets.
Okay, good.
Good, well, thank you for getting
It was
the research, for getting it together, and being able to explain the matching part that was a little confusing.
That was a little confusing. That was the part that took a little bit of time to figure out, but
Okay.
we're there.
I think we're ready to go on to new business. We have with us tonight representatives from the sheriff's office, including Brian Palmer. And we were asking for kind of where are we to date? And Ryan has given us some statistics, which are in our packet. And there's a new handout that just appeared
Well,
tonight.
forget about that one. I
Okay.
screwed up and, didn't calculate some things, or I don't know what I did, but, that is an updated version. Some of the numbers were off, and I put them in, and I don't know why they came out, but I was double checking my figures today, so. Let's see, I don't know.
Oh, okay, the second sheet is other agencies.
Yeah, I've got some better numbers in
Not really. That's a good question.
So this sheet that you gave us is agencies other than the
there. It's supposed to be everybody, but I'm looking at it.
We got another one.
Both of these got provided to the board.
Oh, the second one did?
Yeah.
Okay.
That just came out today. Yeah.
So that's right, this is agencies other than Curtis Sheriff.
Correct. VSB.
But those numbers are all, I don't know. I tell you, I tried to use AI to help me put it together a little bit, and it did not work, and I should double check it. So, on the sheet with everybody else on it, your total number of calls was 1649. That's split between everybody that's responded to calls in, well, actually 1649 plus 122.
Ryan, while you're doing that quick math, is F&G fishing game?
Yes, fishing
Okay.
game. So, 1,771 cases were punched in the town of Hartland.
So this one here is 1649 total? The one you just gave us?
Yeah, but I didn't account for Windsor, so 1771 is the total number. Windsor County, that number was 925 calls for service that we generated, where there's directed patrols, traffic stops, and you can see the breakdown. The type of calls, the count is off, but the type of calls that happen in town are correct. And again, I don't know how I did what I did, but the numbers were off. You have the updated sheets. That basically just shows some more calls for service that we did here. The overall number was the same, but I didn't transcribe it right. So I apologize why that was so goofy. On the second part, that says everybody, you have Windsor County Sheriff's Department, ESP, Fish and Game, Hartford, DMV, Woodstock PD, and I think Windsor's on there too. A lot of those, between Hartford and Windsor, there's 122 calls. Most of those were foot patrols at the school, with Hartford backing us up a couple times.
Are these emergency services for the EMS as well, or is?
I cut out the medical calls
Okay.
with our records management system.
Yeah.
A couple places dispatch for like Woodstock ambulance or Hartford, whatever. So I try to cut those out. So again, the counts are off, but the type of calls, in one might call it disabled motor vehicle, one kind of motor vehicle assist or something like that. I kind of combined them. So on the sheet that says Hartland calls with everybody, those are the type of calls that happen. And again, some of those numbers, I don't know why in truck it says 8 traffic stops, and we had 492 ourselves. So, sorry that was goofy, that won't happen again. But, just we talked about these numbers, we generated 925 calls for service. Some of those are just directed patrols, we just showed up to town and we're driving around. VSP.
But this is also only since July 1st, right?
No, I did calendar year 2024.
Did you count? Okay.
We were under contract at the beginning of the, remember, we had it's from April to June, basically.
That was one of my questions. So this is a calendar year.
Yeah, this one was for I thought it was a little bit easier to just think of from a calendar year perspective. We just got done with the year, so what did Hartland look like in 2024? Because I think in July our hours changed, but I can pull all that up. I just thought it would give you guys a perspective of not just us, but overall what was going on in Hartland. Of course, I goofed up some of the numbers, but like I said, we generated 925 incidents, VSP 662, between Windsor and Hartford, because they're on different systems, 122, and then Woodstock was 5, a couple traffic stops and something on Hartland Hill. So we accounted for about 57% of the stops, or of the calls generated or responded to. And then how those 492 traffic stops that we conducted, about 28% ended up with like a traffic ticket.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably actually a little less than that because some stops ended up with, we might have 2 or 3 tickets out of one stop, but somewhere between a quarter and a third of our stops are tickets, just to give you an idea from a data standpoint. So that was kind of the boring data, which again, I goofed up in the beginning, but I think we've seen pretty good relationship. John and I talk quite often. I hope that you're feeling that we're pretty responsive when we're around. We're trying to, schedule out patrols at times where it kind of gives some omnipresence, where it's not always, the same time, the same place. I hope that that's coming across. And, I guess just kind of how are your thoughts and feelings and questions, concerns?
Ryan, could you stay on that for a minute? I certainly have seen you around town, but are you sticking primarily to the Hartland Quechee Road and Route 5s and Route 12s? Or do you do any back road on a dirt road at all?
I think it's a combination. Like I said, I got 2 or 3 guys that work, Hartland, other than me, but our kind of philosophy is to be a little bit everywhere. Certainly Hartland, a lot of complaints we get from Hartland are people driving goofy or, blowing stop signs by Skunk Hollow or those type of things, or here by Town Hall. So there's a lot of presence on the main roads, but the idea is that the guys are out driving around the back roads also.
Great. And you answered one of my questions. Directed patrol would be?
We punch a card every time we come to town, and hey, I'm in Hartland from noon to 2, or whatever it is, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., whatever it happens to be. So we always punch a card for that to just document when we were in town, so that generally, hey, when were you guys here? It's pretty easy for us to pull up and show, hey, we're here. And you can see with 295 different times we came into town just on directed patrol.
Okay. Help me understand what citizen assist, that's a very low number, but.
Yeah, it could be a lot of different things. So somebody calls up and it's something of maybe a non-criminal nature, but I don't even know where. Hey, my neighbor is blocking my driveway. They won't can move their car. It's things like that that are really not criminal, but we responded. Or, hey, I haven't heard from my mother, in 3 hours. Can you go check on her and she's fine. She just didn't have her phone on. Things that are just not criminal of nature, but somebody called the police and we're looking for some help.
Yeah. One of the things reason for asking specifically about this is Agent in Hartland has been working with the EMS crew EMS crew has been getting repeat calls when there's no need to transport.
Yeah,
And the EMS crew is contacting the community nurse hotline, basically saying, can you go check Phil Hobby? He's called me 4 times, we've gone to their place for 4 times, and it's more of a social service piece.
yeah,
So I could help you get plugged into that if that was.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's why I was asking this citizen assist type of repeat calls that could be of a social service.
yeah, I think we're lucky that we haven't had, we haven't gotten into that yet, but I think that's something that maybe it could be beneficial if we.
Yeah, let's hope we don't get into it, but.
Yeah, by maybe just checking in on somebody, is something that we can kind of add to the list, and I think that might be maybe helpful, and, when somebody's in town. Hey,
Well,
stop by.
if it happens to you, what I'm saying is there's a mechanism now, if you contact Agent of Hartland, they'll get nurses involved,
Yeah.
community nurse involved.
Yeah,
But the dispatch is probably triaging that now, deciding if they're calling you or calling EMS.
yeah, and I haven't heard of any of those type of calls come to us,
Yeah.
but again, maybe it is something where somebody's, when the guys are in town, hey, stop by and check on Mr. Jones, just to say hello.
Sure.
Because, it's being alone and not having folks and something, I think one of our guys stopping by and saying hello can
Our
make a world of difference.
Sergeant General is saying that's one of our biggest mental health issues right now.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Okay. And I was just curious, motor vehicle complaint, is that like no muffler?
No, it's somebody called, hey, that Phil guy's driving crazy up and down the road again,
Yeah.
those type of calls.
Okay,
So responding to those where they're probably gone by the time you get there, or,
I have wanted to dust off some of the numbers that Trace and Tom Kennedy would have been, and when they started the policing and safety kind of committee, but we had some numbers to look at. And I'm just curious, Ryan, and maybe this is just a long-range request. Could we begin to track what's happening over time and see where hotspots are or not hotspots? Are the number of calls on an overall basis in town going up or down, and just year to year? Your colleagues at Vermont State Police, I know, have those records, and I'm not sure who
well,
else.
we have the same records management system as state police, and everybody but Hartford, Windsor, Norwich, and a couple others are on Hartford's, but everyone else is on the same records management system as state police, so I can get you all that.
Yeah. And again, I think it would be more of a planning exercise that, and for you, as well as for us to understand just where we're going and that part, so.
I think the number was 760 state police trips to Heartland last year, and but you should check that. I don't know.
And I can pull it up right now.
You can pull it up anyhow you want, but I think the number was 700 and change in the number of, but that was the only people that we had in the state police,
Yeah.
right? Now, the numbers are around 1,700.
Yeah, and some of that's, so one of the things, you're having more coverage than you have before, so that's gonna generate more calls.
Oh, I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah.
That just means that there's more opportunity to pull people over speed and get the word out there that they can't do that, that sort of thing.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm happy about that. The numbers are much better. Maybe it'll drop, because of the fact that people know that the sheriff's department's out there. So that wouldn't be a surprise to me next year to see the numbers drop. But for now, it's gone from 700, I'm pretty sure, to 1,700. That's means you've been working at doing the right thing, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, like you said, well, and so that's, I mean, you dropped 925 calls for service that we were involved in on top of that, so it kind of would make sense that that's a similar number, and then state police's calls, I think we're in the 662 range, so that seems like that tracks.
As Trace was talking about that, I was really struck recently when I was looking back at my notes of just the panic we had within the Hartland Elementary School when they had a number of very serious incidents with either parents or kids. And
That recently?
it began, no, this is going back over a couple of years now, and what it began to sort of lay the foundation for us to have a look-see at what we're doing as a community because of the response times with the Vermont State Police. Do you have any indication, or how do you work with the elementary school, or are you working with them at all?
We've responded there before, different times. A couple of scenarios where like kids were out of control or something suspicious. So usually during the day, worst case, we're at the office. There's people at the office that doesn't take too long. Going code 3, it's a little bit quicker than coming from Royalton or Westminster. So we've always worked really good with them. The principal and I get along well. They have an SRO through Windsor PD, so.
Which is a part of the school budget.
Yeah.
Right, so they have a school resource
No,
officer.
I'm very aware of that.
Yeah, and so, Paul's pretty well involved in there. There's been a couple times where he's not been there, and we've responded and helped out. But I think for the most part, that's a pretty good relationship. But nothing's popping off the top of my head right now of anything in
Yeah,
particular.
that's good news.
Yeah.
I think that would be important that we go through that again and verify those numbers and verify the numbers, the state police calls that we had from last year, so that John gets an opportunity to announce that, over a year we've found the sheriff's department and we have gone from this many calls in our town to this many calls in our town, and we feel that we're heading in the right direction. We would like to see the numbers drop, because when the word gets out that we actually have police coverage, maybe people stop doing some of the activities they're doing. And so that would be another positive thing that we could mention at our.
Agreed.
Yeah.
One of the questions I have, Brian, do you track things in a geo database, or can we track things from a geographic location over time?
Yes, with some work, probably.
Okay.
So,
So it's early in, we've been under contract for a year, basically, because we had that coming up on a year, basically. I think it would be valuable to look at, every 6 months or so, are there hotspots throughout town, and can we do more of those directed patrols in those areas?
You probably have to break it up, so you have your traffic hotspots,
Right.
and then you have your other
Yeah.
stuff.
we have that data, putting it into something useful. I can tell you where every single call happened.
Right.
But so,
Is it a searchable item for that geographic location that you could actually
Yeah, but it would be interesting to look at,
group by?
on a map, of Heartland. Green are traffic incidents, red are other criminal investigations, and where there overlap, or are they distinct things? Like you talked about 4 corners and 3 corners, we know where largely we expect to see traffic incidents.
Sure.
And
Around all the stop signs.
right.
There's really 4 of them.
Exactly. Wait, put up another one, just
Particularly over in that Candyville, Bass Road kind of area.
Maple Heights.
yeah.
Are you still opposed to speed carts?
no, I think they're very expensive. I was looking at getting some, Governors Highway Safety grant for the tow behind the trailer that's movable. Well, they're 14, 15 grand. I don't know how effective they are. I think maybe in the short term. I know I know a couple places that have them. I just don't know how effective they are. If people think if you guys want to get some and put them up the stationary ones,
It would
whatever.
certainly be worth looking into, I feel.
Yeah.
And specifically look into its effectiveness, and you are in Woodstock, right? They have them,
Yeah.
and they,
Yeah.
whenever I see them, I slow down. It's that blue light.
Right, the entrance.
Oh, the
to
flashing blue lights.
Yeah, that's a
Norwich
message.
has them as well.
Yeah, and I think people get used to them.
Well, Route 4.
Well, just move them.
But some of them are permanent.
Permanent,
Woodstock.
The Woodstock ones are permanent,
We'd
right?
have to pay to put those in.
Yeah, and they're
Right.
$2,500, $3.
Right. I think what would be of more interest, it sounds like, is the tow behind ones. Maybe there's an opportunity to cost share one with a handful of other towns in your region.
And our regional V-Trans had one, that they were using, and then there was some sort of mechanical problem, but it would be worth following up with our regional, to see if we could borrow the cart, if we don't need it.
Yeah, I need to look back, because
I don't know who owns it, but there's often one at the top of the hill as you go down into Brownsville.
Windsor PD's has
That's what,
one.
yeah, that's right, they cover them, don't they?
So, I'll look into getting one again. There might be some covers, obviously, the grant. Like I said, they're $14,000-$15,000 for the movable ones.
Brian, on the, roughly 28%, I think you said, are the stops would result in tickets. Is that which court system is that ticket?
Vermont Judicial Bureau, Vermont, it's where the traffic court's held. So, they do all the hearings online now, I believe, but just the Judicial Bureau.
Any other questions?
No, it's eye-opening, but I mean, I guess the good news is if you take out the traffic stops and the directed patrols, the numbers are a little more manageable.
Right, 17, yeah, I think that's the key takeaway is 1,700 seems like a lot of stops. But if you take away the big kind of,
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 a day.
right, the real, if you're looking at your sheet here, Ryan, I come up with maybe 20, 20, property crimes or other.
Yeah, I certainly don't think that there's a huge crime problem in Hartland. One of the things is, I'm prepping, I'm going away for a law enforcement executive leadership course, and one of the things that struck me the other night is I'm reading one of the books that we're assigned. The way to evaluate the effectiveness of law enforcement is how little calls you have going on, and I think, again, Hartland didn't have a lot to begin with, but I think as we look at this and go, all right, our goal is not to have a lot of stuff going on and to have, obviously the traffic stops and things are going to happen. And I think that number of, we don't write a ton of tickets. I think the agency I took over was probably 90% of the stops resulted in tickets. And I don't know if that.
I think my son can.
Yeah, probably attest to that.
Everybody's sons can attest to that.
And just for example, the relationship that we have, John called me the other day and was like, hey, there's an odd situation at the library where librarians were a little scared. Somebody was.
No, I was there the other day.
Yeah.
Wasn't me, was it?
No, that's a whole different thing. We're working on the trespass notice, but, somebody was carrying a concealed weapon, and, I actually responded, and we kind of smoothed the situation out, and some relationships that we had with this person anyways, I was like, hey, can you kind of scare the librarian, can you not do that? Or maybe, oh, sorry, I thought it was concealed. But having some of those relationships, I think is super important, and we were able to kind of smooth a situation that could have got weird, to say the least.
Sure. And you may have caught it was a topic today at the State House. People are beginning to say in public places, could they ban concealed weapons, because it's happening.
I'll just follow up, sorry, I'll just follow up. The relationship that Ryan and I have has worked really positively over the past year or so. I think, whether it's, that kind of on demand, hey, this is happening, can you send somebody right now? or there was an incident last winter, or last spring, we think somebody might, be kind of poking around the North Hartland school at night. Can you just kind of direct folks up there as possible? And it's been really positive. So when we hear about these incidents, that message is sometimes funneling through me to Ryan, and the responsiveness has been really great. So I nothing but thanks for Ryan and the sheriff's office at this point.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Absolutely.
Any stuff to focus on or thoughts, anyone?
Speed card. I think what it'll do is just do further what you just stated, which is you kind of like to see the numbers go down. And if you had a couple speed cards, then you could just move different locations where there's a constant speeding problem without having to give people tickets all the time. It would free you up to go someplace else and do other things that are more important.
I know a fireman in Brownsville, Hartland Road, that wants one.
I would love one out there, yeah.
Don't just buy your own with
I should just buy my own.
Don't give him any ideas. It'd be out there with the hair dryer and
Brian, I would like to compliment you on that great article that was in the Valley News recently.
Oh, thank you. Cost me a lot of money.
I'm sure it did, and I think it just reflected on your whole department, so congratulations.
Thank you. That's, they spent a long time putting it together, but we've grown a lot, we've done a lot, we've been able to check a lot of boxes, but it's because I got a fantastic team. And, we're not perfect, but we're trying to get better, and it's a fantastic team. So I'm lucky to be at the head of the organization, but everyone behind me is fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And that came through in the article, so I thought that was nice. So thank you very much, and we look forward to a good-looking relationship.
Yes.
Ryan, can I just before you leave, it would be great, before you leave, because I know you mentioned to me you're going to this class, it would be great to have a secondary point of contact.
Yeah.
for
So,
while
this is
you're
my
gone.
Chief Deputy Paul Samataro. This was on my list of things to talk about. I'm headed to the Southern Police Institute's Administrative Officer course at the University of Louisville.
So you have me.
This weekend, yeah. And so I'm there for a whole semester. It's a pretty prestigious course that I was lucky enough to get into. It's getting paid for by a scholarship. So,
I missed work.
the University of Louisville
Oh,
in
nice.
Kentucky, their criminal justice
Yeah.
division, since 1951, they've had the Southern Police Institute, which is on par kind of with like the FBI National Academy, which I'm on the wait list for, Northwestern's police school. So it's long, it's 12 weeks, but it's an executive level leadership course. I think it's going to help grow me as, personally and professionally. I'm in the class with people from Alaska State Police, Ohio, Florida, Arizona, Washington, Massachusetts, Connecticut, all over the country. There's about 40 of us in the course, so I'm lucky enough to be accepted in that program and help me kind of check off some boxes from a formal education standpoint. But Chief Samataro has been working for us for about 9 months now. Comes with a lot of experience. He was the chief deputy or captain in Windham County, so he helped run the Windham County Sheriff's Department, came up, worked for us. He's been on the job for about 30 plus years of experience with a lot of different things with law enforcement. So guys love him, does a great job for me. And so he's kind of my number two. And we have some great experience behind him. Sam Batista's been with the department for 22 years. Lieutenant Leonard's been on since 1981, so a lot of experience at the agency that they're probably excited that I'm leaving for a while. So, but yeah, so Chief Deputy Samataro.
First Saturday in May.
I appreciate it.
I think I am, because in one of the blocks that you go, the whole event planning thing at the Kentucky Derby. So I mean, the Churchill Downs is in the same neighborhood as University of Louisville. So staying in the dorms and going to class, it's a 480-hour course. But yeah, we have to go to Churchill Downs and learn from them on how to do big event stuff, which is a cool part of the course. So May 9th is the last day. So I think I will be there for the Derby.
That's the better one.
So I'm excited about it.
Good luck, enjoy it.
Anyways, thank you guys very much for everything. Appreciate it.
We'll be in touch. Thanks. Thanks, Ryan. Nice to meet you.
See you.
Take care.
Okay, next item of new business is the letter that we asked John to draft to ITW. You have it, I think it was in the packet, and there's a copy floating around on the table, so if you...
Correct. So there was a letter that got included in the packet, and then based on additional conversation, a revision that was sitting on the table when you walked in the door. By and large, what the letter does, and the takeaway from the previous select board meeting, was to voice our support for the planning commission in their submittal that they submitted to the EPUC, the Public Utilities Commission, and also kind of following up on some additional questions. So again, what you'll see in the revised letter that was on the table, not the one in the packet, is specifically saying we support the planning commission. We support their request for additional information because they had outlined a list of questions. And then just kind of addressing the two big things. One, as proposed, the proposal is not in conformance with the town plan. There's two specific sections within the town plan. And you'll see it in there. It's the chapter 1 and chapter 6. There's a telecommunications section, and there's a siting issue where they talk about not having things above the existing tree line. So how can they address those? And then some of the other questions that came up in the last meeting, bless you, Trace, are there other providers who will utilize the tower? And then there's kind of questions around the technical usage of the tower. So getting these questions to them prior to the meeting on the 18th, so they have an opportunity to come prepared for the conversation. I think that's the intent here.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think there was one grammatical error.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, there's one grammatical error noted in the last sentence of the first paragraph. I think we're missing the word "and," so we'll make that small change and get this. What I would like to do is submit this to the local contact. You'll see it's addressed to Eric Callio. He has been the point of contact that I've had.
For you, whatever.
Well, I was so
PUC.
So my intention is to, again, we're still in this conversational back and forth. So it would be to submit it to Eric and keep it out of the EPUC. It's still a part of the public domain, but the Public Utilities Commission is a formal process. So these are preliminary questions. I can do either way.
Did the planning commission go to both?
The planning commission went to the EPUC. I don't know if they have
I would just copy them. I mean, you could send it to the person you're sending it to, but I would
Yeah,
copy.
John, I couldn't find the planning commission's information on,
it is,
and I've used the case number.
right,
So-
it's difficult the Public Utilities Commission website is difficult to navigate.
Okay.
It's not the most inherently usable website I've seen. But
So I just want, Jim, I wanted to agree with you that we probably should go to the Public
Yeah, I mean, just as a
Utilities Commission as
courtesy
well as
copy.
to Mr. Kelly or whatever his name is, with ITW.
and then we've also been,
He just
yeah,
go, as a courtesy, it's probably smart to copy the planning commission.
yes, yeah, that was on my radar. Additionally, I've been in contact at the request of the board with an attorney who the town can utilize moving forward as this proceeds down the path. We've been in contact with somebody out of Burlington who has experience in front of the PUC on a town's behalf.
Great.
So that process is moving forward.
Sounds like we're done until we have a meeting.
So again, the meeting is on the 18th. We anticipate an application after that, at which point the formal process begins and there's a 30-day time window for the town to respond.
Are you doing the meeting upstairs?
The meeting will be upstairs, yes. We're coordinating with Chico and our folks to make sure that we have microphones and everything set up so people can be heard, people online can participate. Again, Matt will be moderating the meeting.
Let's get it in the mail.
Okay, so that will go out, that'll get signed in the mail tomorrow, as it were.
I don't think we need an action on this. I think we've made a request on doing it
Okay.
okay. Town manager update.
Sure. So, first, just a thanks to the road crew. We keep getting these kind of 2, 3, 4-inch nuisance snowstorms that create the same amount of work for if it snowed a foot. But they've been out there diligently plowing and sanding and salting and sanding. I hope you notice it, that sidewalks in 3 corners are great. Rob does a fantastic job of keeping everything safe here and the road crews out there.
I forget it was Saturday or Sunday, but for whenever it snowed over the weekend, it's the first time I've seen them eat West Windsor to the roads.
That's we'll be sure to let them know.
I was shocked.
I don't know if they have a running road foreman competition, but we'll be sure to pass it along.
And as I was driving along, I was thinking about, wow, this is the first time I've seen this. Along came the West Windsor truck and almost hit me.
So we did, last Thursday, we had the community conversation as part of the Thriving Communities grant that we are a part of with Two Rivers Regional Planning Commission. You recall Brian was here from Two Rivers to talk about it. There's a small town set aside where this was kind of generating, seeing what the town residents were interested in, specifically as it relates to transportation. A lot of the conversation really focused around, there was about 15 people, including online, and a lot of the conversation focused around getting people away from single occupancy vehicles. So what can we do to, make the town more bike and pedestrian friendly? A lot of the conversations focused around the 3 corners and 4 corners in this stretch of Route 12 and Route 5, of which we don't have a lot of control over because they are state roads, but we can kind of coordinate that with V-Trans. So that was a good conversation, and I think there were some positive takeaways from that.
What would they do?
So there's what would V-Trans do?
What would they do to promote physically a bike path along Route 12 or Route 5?
One of the options that was discussed last Thursday, it's my understanding from the folks in attendance that V-Trans has the ability to make the lanes narrower, which would allow potentially for a great portion of that road space for a bike lane, a dedicated bike lane. That's a conversation to have with V-Trans. There was also a lot of conversation regarding the intersection at Route 12 and Mace Hill and the Brownsville Road. There's difficulty with sight lines, especially if you're coming off of Mace Hill. So whether we can, what options exist to make that a little safer for folks. We have a little bit of miscellaneous follow-up work from when the power line came down, Sony Electric came and GMP came, and the conduit got pulled off the side of Damon Hall by the side entrance. The state electrical inspector came and said, everything looks great, do X, Y, and Z, miscellaneous things. The one thing that was not required but strongly encouraged was putting a hood over the stove in Damon Hall. That was a strongly encouraged action. Yes.
Talking interior, you let it ventilation.
An interior hood, right. We let him inside.
Electrical inspector inside.
We let him inside.
For the stove that gets used once a year.
Correct. I think that maybe that was not clearly explained when they were here.
Oh, no.
So, and then, so we got quotes back for both the Hartland Historical Society. You'll recall they have a moisture issue in the summer in the basements with the records. They're currently running 2 portable dehumidifiers that are being emptied daily. We got 2 quotes, one from Legacy Plumbing and Heating and one from Simple Energy. They were kind of vastly different. One from Legacy Plumbing and Heating was $6,300 and the one from Simple Energy was for $10,400. These are for a heat pump to so they don't have to be emptied daily. And again, recall there's ARPA money for this project.
Strikingly different.
It is strikingly different.
Yeah,
There's probably
I
two
know
different models.
one has electrical work, but the other one doesn't, but that's still vastly different.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I think, both of those quotes, the lower quote there does not include the hookup to the panel itself, which would add to the cost. Looking at the electrical panel in the Historical Society, there might be a need to upgrade that panel regardless. It looks a little dated.
I mean, like 1959.
Maybe we should get a quote on that before.
Correct. Well, so we'll continue to chase that down, but it would be great if we could get that booked so we can get that taken care of before summer comes. And again, we have $680,000 in unspent ARPA money still, and these kind of building maintenance upgrades were a part of the ARPA report that the town submitted. Unrelated to the Historical Society, the furnace at the North Hartland Fire Station is becoming increasingly problematic and not really working. So John Sanders got quotes for a furnace replacement at the North Hartland Fire Station.
But that's a small building.
It's a small building. Their quotes were one from Irving and again one from Legacy Plumbing and Heating. Closer, just over 10,000 and 8,700. And again, I think it would be great if the fire department could have a functioning furnace in that department.
Is it oil today?
This would be, it was an existing oil furnace and install a new propane furnace.
So this is switch over.
Because my understanding from talking with Chief Sanders is that it's of a vintage that it cannot be easily repaired, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to repair it.
But go with the furnace instead of the heat pump or?
Right, so that was the Irving quote was to go with a forced propane, and then the one from Legacy Plumbing and Heating is a high efficiency condensing furnace, a propane high efficiency condensing furnace. So again, I think given the size of the building, the furnaces make sense there.
And if we have the ARPA money, it's probably a good thing to do.
Right, and again, the HVAC upgrades at the fire stations were included in the ARPA report. There were many projects listed, I understand. My recommendation would be to get a third quote, as we would do for any project for the North Fountain Fire Station. And we can discuss it again to move forward with that project.
Okay.
So we'll do that.
What about the fire station here in town? Is that in the wings for getting?
They had that conversation when the folks were in town. That is coming down the road,
Okay.
but much less pressing than the North Hartland Fire Station. There was a little bit of confusion regarding the town meeting warning and the election for a Board of Trustees member. They have an open seat that was resigned in the middle of a term. So the Board of Trustees will post that position and make a recommendation to you all. You all appoint a person for the remainder of the term that is open.
For the library?
For the library. That is what the library bylaws say is the process.
The process is that the trustees?
The trustees make,
Select board?
the trustees make a recommendation to the select board, and then the select board makes the appointment.
Is the position filled now?
It is not currently filled now.
And the resignation was recently?
In late fall, early winter.
There had been a petition for.
There was a petition, and so there was some confusion. Their bylaws clearly say that the Board of Trustees shall post the vacancies left by an outgoing board member. That position was never posted, so they are posting it on the website. They're going to solicit interested parties, make a recommendation. So the petition by
How long is the term?
it's for 1 more year. It'll be the remainder of the term.
So you can look into this But I think, you know, in the select board world, you would make the appointment, but that would only be good until the next election, which is coming right up.
Right, but
So we would probably need to make this appointment after town meeting.
that is correct, because, so that was why the petition was out there collecting signatures, thinking that they would be on the ballot, because they didn't follow the process within the bylaws, where they didn't post the position.
You can still run for a vacant position.
But it wasn't,
I mean, it's too late now.
it's too late now, and it was not,
Wasn't warned.
it wasn't warned. We would have had to have a special select board meeting on last Saturday to change the warning, because it had to
Like
get
in
posted.
March.
Right. The timing was a little clunky. However, this is the process that should be followed. So,
Okay, they appear to have a candidate because
correct.
a name on a petition and a.
Correct. So we'll see they'll get something to the board. You will make the appointment for the remainder of the term.
Okay.
But don't give us anything before town meeting.
Correct. No. Okay. That is. Oh, and then just two quick follow-up things. Back to thriving communities. I met with Brian to begin doing a capital plan for the highway department. We talked about, buildings, and equipment, and, kind of the big ticket road projects that are out there. We'll following up with BJ, this week or the next 10 days or so to get a specific breakdown of equipment and what the long-term plan is there. But we'll see that coming together. And then looking forward at future agenda items, capital plan is on there. I do want to just touch base on Bird Hill Road. As of December, they're still in discussion. The residents are still in discussion about what to do.
But did we outline what our expectations were?
It's been clear what our expectations are. I think there was a little confusion about emergency services. But at this point, they're still trying to figure out.
Would have to be brought up to a higher standard before we would take it.
And weight rated, right. Okay. Okay. So that's it. Sorry. Yeah.
Jennyville Road, Densmore Brook culvert.
Yeah.
Is that something that's still on the radar?
It is still on the radar. We got a grant to do the pre-engineering on that, so that RFP is being developed. So we'll get that put out and we'll get bids, and then it'll be much the same. So we'll have that in hand, the engineering and the scoping. We'll just need to then follow that up with, chasing down additional grant money to do that work. It'll be similar to costs to what the Jennyville culvert cost last summer would be my guess. So somewhere well outside of what we spend on culvert replacements per year.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're on the library. It looks like the Conservation Commission is searching for members.
I believe they have an opening as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought there was an email out there. Okay. And a membership on the Planning Commission,
I believe there's
an agenda item about that on their agenda.
I believe there's an opening. I think there's a discussion that needs to be had about whether or not they have a rather large commission, and whether they want to keep it at the current membership, which is 9, or change their process to have a 7-member commission.
I mean, I think it's good that they're talking about that.
Right.
It becomes our decision to implement it.
Correct. I understand that. I just wanted to, since we were talking about trustee groups and so on, just see what's on the horizon.
I've got a feeling 9 seems like it's not terribly manageable.
Right. It's a big group. I think attendance becomes an issue with 9 members as well. In the past year or so. So I think that's a conversation that they'll be having.
Other future agenda items, I think, are going to be shaped by the pre-town meeting and the meeting on the 18th. So I think we have to keep a little loose.
Yep.
Before what we're doing there. Is there any correspondence?
No correspondence.
Okay. Then we have added an executive session and with 2 distinct.
Yeah.
Can we
Do we expect
them?
actions?
There's no expected actions on either of these.
Okay, so So earlier question for James, so we're gonna go in.
Yep.
Do one, come out, go back in, do the other one, come out, no actions. Do we need to keep these guys here, or do we let them go?
I would think not. But,
There's no action now.
Right. The minutes will reflect that we came back out.
All right, then I'll make a motion to enter executive session under 1 VSA section 313A1F to discuss attorney-client communications.
Okay, I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Guess who I had down already?